Hey, so I wanted to discuss a couple of these matters before we go any further. I was actually going to wait and do a video, but I feel like people are going to need the information as quick as possible. Okay, so what I was saying to you was with regards to the temple priestly divisions, that was lost. This is kind of universally known to scholars, which is why when they try and backdate it, they don't know where to start and stop. First of all, we don't know when the temple was destroyed. So not exactly, the dates are muffled. So we don't know really where we should start and stop it and then try and backdate that. Also, Dan McClellan had made mention that there were some issues with the priestly duties not aligning with the calendar of the time. I'll let him explain it right fast. If you go to his YouTube channel, a video posted 10 months ago, how accurate are the calculations of Jesus' birthday? This person is trying to propose the same thing as you, that Jesus was born during the fall period. But let's see what Dan thinks about that.
Been serving in the temple for 2 consecutive weeks. So this is the first and the most catastrophic of the problems with this calculation. To begin, each priest had 2 rounds of service throughout the year. So are we talking about the first round or are we talking about the second? We have to make an assumption there, and this creator is not telling you they're making an assumption there. Additionally, if we look at all of the divisions of service, they don't line up perfectly with the annual calendar back then. And so we have to make an assumption about whether or not the rounds of service start over from the beginning every first of the year, or if they run continuously. And if they run continuously, because they don't line up perfectly with the annual calendar, each year the date is going to change a little bit. Now, we have another assumption to make. If it runs continuously, does it recalibrate every few years? A lot of scholars say that every 6 years it recalibrated. So you started back at the first of the year with the very beginning of the divisions. So you have to make assumptions just to determine which of these courses and when that course may have been. But we cannot even figure out when that course may have been if they ran continuously without knowing on what date they started. So if it runs continuously, whether it's recalibrating or not, we have to know what year was the very beginning of the priestly service. And we don't know that. It definitely didn't start under David, but even if it did, we wouldn't know how to place it. Now, a lot of scholars will go look at some post-biblical texts, Josephus and the Mishnah, which identify what priestly group was serving in the temple when the temple was destroyed.
And the Mishnah, by the way, came after the time of the New Testament. Also, he has a correction up here. It says the destruction of the first temple.
If we know the date that the temple was destroyed, we can calibrate our calculations to that date. Now, there are problems with this. One is that they don't all identify the same date that the temple was destroyed. 2, we have no data that indicate that this specific division that is outlined in Chronicles existed when the temple was destroyed. Most scholars would say that priestly services description dates to after the destruction of the temple, around the year 500 or so, because it happens to closely match the way that some Neo-Babylonian texts divide.
Neo-Babylonian? Could it be that we maybe stole that from them? We appropriated that? I mean, I'm just saying. I don't know.
Up their priestly service in the temple. And so it seems to have been created after the destruction of the temple and in association with the priestly service that was going on during the exile or in the post-exilic period. And so in short, we have no way of confidently calibrating the priestly divisions to any specific year at all. And so once we get to 5 BCE, we have no way of identifying when we think Zechariah may have been in the temple.
All right, now he's going to talk a little bit about the time gap between Jesus with regards to his cousin, 6 months. I tend to think it's 6 months, but listen to what Dan says here.
And his wife Elizabeth conceived.
Now again, this creator is omitting something and not telling you about it. There's a phrase at the beginning of Luke 1:24 that has been very carefully left out. And in Greek, it says, meta vetavtas tasimeros, or, and after these days. And this phrase is not very specific regarding the length of time that has passed. Could be days, could be weeks, could plausibly be months. We just don't know. Now, this video is going to assume that conception took place within 2 weeks after Zacharias was returning home from the temple, which is certainly plausible. But we just don't know for sure, and this creator omitted that phrase in order to make it sound like we have a better idea than we actually do. Assuming she became pregnant during the following 2 weeks, June 18th to July 1st, we can count the normal 40 weeks of pregnancy from that time and know that John would have been born between March 25th and April 7th in 4 BC the following year. Now that we know the approximate time John was born, we can know when Jesus was born. Because in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, Mary became pregnant with Jesus, meaning Jesus would have been born right at 6 months after John the Baptist. This would bring us to the fall of 4 BC. So using this evidence in the Bible, we can prove that Jesus would have likely been born somewhere between September 16th and September 29th in the fall of 4 BC. So this doesn't prove anything at all. It is just a suggestion based on a number of assumptions, some of them more plausible than others, some of them absolutely without merit.
Okay, so now with regards to the shepherds and the sheep and the pasture, etc., we're going to look at Genesis 31, and it says right here in verse 40, this is with regards to Laban and his daughters and Jacob working for them. This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime and the cold at night, and sleep fled from my eyes. So the Jewish argument here is that he is complaining basically that he went above and beyond to do what was, good and right and true. However, the issue here is if going and dealing with sheep at night in the quote cold is above and beyond that of the normal duties of a shepherd, then likewise the heat, quote, consuming someone in the daytime is also above and beyond. This would ixnay pretty much all of summertime, and we know that sheep would definitely be out during those hours, right? And time frame, seasons wise. So if you're going to hold the energy that this is like a special case and can't be used to prove that sheep might have been in the fields in December, i.e. December 25th, when it's plausible that Jesus was born, then you also have to say that sheep would not be in the fields at the heat of the day when the, quote, heat consumed people. So let's look at this word right here also. So here I have commentary on Genesis 8:22 with regards to Chorif, winter, and Chor, cold season. And they're saying that the cold season is more severe than the, quote, winter. And this is because it's broken up into 6 seasons in the Torah, consisting of 2 months. And then they give the source, and then they break down like half of the month. And then it starts talking about like how it would be split, in other words. In Kislev, December 25th, Kislev, it would be this time frame. And then Tevet, and then half of Bat is the cold season right here. So then they go on down here to talk about the winter time is the time of sowing barley, etc., so on and so forth. And then they break that up into half of these months here, which are technically like 3 months, but nonetheless, that's how during this time, during Rashi's time, it was broken out. But let's look at this. So this is Josephus's commentary with the Jewish Wars, book 3, chapter 10, verse 8. And basically he goes on to talk about how the area was pretty temperate, right? For it not only nourishes autumn fruits beyond men's expectations, it supplies men with the principal fruits, with grapes, with figs, continually during the 10 months. So he's basically saying it's pretty temperate. And if you go to the bottom, this is the footnote of what they were saying with regards to the season as winter, etc. So in other words, as we note today, the weather changes. And Josephus, who lived much closer to the time of Jesus, was saying it was pretty temperate during that time. So Jesus very well could have been born during December 25th with the sheep out.